Hello Internet, so nice to see you. Today we talk about if A flat and G sharp are the same note or not. This is not an academic question. In fact, there are very practical consequences that matter to you right now in the way you use your knowledge of music theory and in the way you write your music, depending if the answer is yes or no. And just knowing or guessing if the answer is yes or no means absolutely nothing unless you know exactly why the answer is yes or no and what difference it makes in practice. So let me give away the answer immediately. A flat and G sharp are not the same note. Not even a little bit. How is that possible? Well, the fact is, those two notes have the same pitch, they have the same frequency. If you play them on a guitar or a piano, the mechanical movement you make to play them are exactly the same. On the guitar, you put the finger on the same fret and pluck the same string. On the piano, you press the same key. And the frequency that comes out, it's exactly the same. So how can I say those two notes are different? The fact is that your brain interprets this pitch, your brain interprets this frequency depending on the context. And in fact, you hear A flat and G sharp as two different notes, even if the frequency is the same. If you want, it's kind of an auditive illusion, but it's a very real thing that happens to everybody. Now, before we go and hear that, let me spend a few seconds talking about temperament. In all this video we use the equal temperament because this is the standard temperament used today, and in this temperament A flat and G sharp are strictly the same frequency. If you use a different temperament, then A flat and G sharp have two different frequencies and so of course are two different notes. But you're gonna see in a minute how even in the equal temperament those two notes are different. So to best hear the difference between A flat and G sharp, let's write down the C major scale and see how the frequency that is between G and A can be called G sharp or A flat. Now, when I was learning the basics of music theory, I was wondering why we had such a strange notation so that the frequency in between G and A could take two names, and I was also wondering why the books on music theory were so particular about the naming of the notes in every scale and in every chord. So for instance, if I were to spell out the note in an E major chord, those notes would be E, G sharp and B, and not E, A flat and B. At the beginning I thought it was just a matter of aesthetic, so that, for instance, whenever we write a scale, we use each letter once and only once. Well, it turns out there is actually a reason why we are doing all this. So let me say that the main difference between G sharp and A flat is that G sharp tends to move upwards and A flat tend to move downwards. And this is true every time you use sharp or flat note. Whenever the note is outside of the scale, if you're using a sharp to notate the note, you mean that the note prefers to resolve upwards, and if you use a flat for the note, it means you prefer the notes to resolve downward. And the interesting thing is that all those tendencies are automatically codified already in the letters you normally use to write those chords. So for instance, I could play this chord progression C, E, A minor, and the G sharp in the E chord naturally resolves up to the A in the A minor chord. Now we have to clarify what tendency and resolution actually mean. They don't mean that this G sharp must absolutely be followed by an A note. You can totally follow this G sharp by any other note. And it doesn't even mean that if you don't follow G sharp by another note, it will sound bad. What does it mean is that if after this G sharp you play an A note, so you resolve this note, then all the tension introduced by the G sharp note disappears. If you don't do that, then the tension introduced by the G sharp note does not disappear, does not get resolved. It can still sound good, it's just sound in a different way, and depending on where you use this in your music, you may want one or the other. So this is not a rule of music theory. It's written nowhere that you must resolve all your dissonances. Music theory tells you that if you want the tension to go away, then you have to resolve it, and that's the way to do it. If you play this, the tension goes away. But if you want to keep the tension, you just don't do it. So for instance, this is the resolution. I play the C chord, the E chord, and the A minor chord, and I'm making sure that you can hear the G, G sharp, and A note. But instead, I could play a C chord, an E chord, and a G major chord, and now the notes are G, then G sharp, and then I'm coming back to G, rather than resolving this note up to A. And as you can hear, some tension will remain. You see, it's like we went somewhere else. We didn't finish that thought, we didn't finish that line, so the tension was not resolved. Does it sound bad? No, to me it sounds actually pretty good. It just doesn't sound the way you expect it to sound. What about A flat instead? Well, you see, if for instance I'm playing this chord progression, I'm gonna play C, A minor, F minor, C. Now the F minor chord is made by the note F, A flat, C. If you follow the rule for naming those notes in a chord, this is not F, G sharp, C. This note is the A flat. And indeed, in this context, when you hear this frequency in the context of the F minor chord, this note will tend to go down, meaning that if you want to resolve the dissonance made by this note, you have to move down. So, in this case, you're gonna hear this line. On the A minor, you're gonna have an A note, on the F minor, you're gonna have the A flat note, and on the C, you're gonna have the G note that resolves the dissonance of the A flat. And again, you don't have to resolve. I could play C, A minor, F minor, A minor again, and in this case the A flat note goes back to A, and you will hear that there's gonna be a slight disconnect, and this A flat note is left there somehow. When we play the A minor chord, again, it's like we don't follow through with the A flat note, we don't resolve it, and so it stays there. The tension is still there. All of this is true for all the other out of scale notes. So for instance, if we take D sharp and E flat, those have the same frequency, but those are two different notes, with D sharp that wants to resolve upward and E flat that wants to resolve downward. And then if you do this, if you do resolve them the way they prefer, then all the tension goes away, and if you do not do that, then the tension stays there and there is a little disconnect in the chord progression that, again, can sound good if that's what you want. So for instance, if I play something like C major, B 7th, E minor, I'll have the E note in C major going down to the D sharp in B7, going up to the E in E minor. If instead I'm trying to resolve this D sharp down, for instance playing C, B7, G, that's what happens. Again, a little disconnect. On the other hand, I could play C, C minor, G, and the E flat note in C minor will resolve down to the D note in the G chord. While if instead I play C, C minor, A minor, the E flat note will be pushed back to the E note in A minor, but will not resolve, and you will hear, again, a little bit of a disconnect and the tension staying there. And again, the same is true for C sharp and D flat, the same is true for F sharp and G flat, the same is true for A sharp and B flat. Again, as long as you name the notes in your chord in the conventional way, you will know if the notes will resolve up or down. So the reason behind all this kind of complex notation that contains both sharps and flats is to indicate, to let you know how those notes want to resolve, and then you are free to resolve them in that way and eliminate the tension, or not resolve them in that way and perpetuate the tension depending on what you want to say in your music. Neither of them is right or wrong. In general, it's more common to resolve the tension, but you can definitely keep the tension going by purposefully avoiding the resolution. There will be much more to be said about notes out of key and how to use them, but for this I refer you to my course Complete Chord Mastery. In this course we work in detail on how harmony applies to guitar, how to play those chords on your guitar, how to put them together, how to see how those chords resolve into each other, in what order to put them, etc, etc. And we do everything on the fretboard. This course is for guitar players. This is not a book, it's a complete course with video, audio, and written documents. To find out more about it, click the link in the top right corner. If you like this video, smash on that like button and don't forget to subscribe and click on notifications so YouTube will let you know every time I put up a new video. And if you have any comment on this, please write it down in the comment. If you have questions, write them down there. And if you really like this video, share this video to your friends. I will be really grateful if you do that. This is Tommaso Zillia of musictheoryforguitar.com. And until next time, enjoy.